Shnei Chayov, and the days of Yaakov, the years of his life, Sheva Shonim, Arboim Umashona. He lived 147 years. He did not live as long as his father. Yitzchak lived until 180. Avram lived until the age of 175. Yaakov initially was meant to live 180 years. And there's a question in the Midrash, why exactly did he have years shaved off his life? One Midrash is that the story of the fetishes, Rachel had taken the trophim of her father and put it in the saddle of the camel. Why? So Rashi says, because she wanted to remove the idolatry from her father. She was doing it for her father's sake. Lavan realizes that Yaakov escapes, fled with his family, with his flocks, with his herds and everything. He pursues him finally. He searches through all his possessions, and he says to him, why did you take my fetishes? Why did you take my trophy? Yaakov had no idea that Rachel had taken it and hid it in the saddle of her camel. So Yaakov believed at that moment it is impossible that any of his family could have taken what he claims they took. He was unaware Rachel had taken it. So Yaakov made a statement. He says, whoever took the trophim, lo yichya, should not live. That was his words. And because he said those words, lo yichya, that person should not live, that's why Rachel passed away. Because he said, whoever took it should not live, that's why Rachel passed away at that moment, soon after that, after the birth of Binyamin. Now, what is the numerical value of lo yichya? Numerical value of lo yichya is 33. That is lo yichya. Because he had taken Rachel's life at that moment, before the time that she should have passed away, and the words he had used were lo yichya, which are 33, that's the numerical value of lo yichya. Therefore, he had 33 years taken off his life. And therefore, he only lived 147 years rather than 180 years. That's one midrash. The other midrash is, the famous midrash, which we're all aware of, that when Yosef had presented his father before Paro, and Paro had seen him, and Yaakov at the time was only 130 years old when he came to Egypt, because he was in Egypt 17 years, and that's why he passed away at the age of 147. Paro says, I've never seen such an old person in my life. You look ancient looking. So Yaakov says to Paro, I'm not as old as you think. My years haven't even come close to the years of my father and my grandfather, but my life has been bitter and painful. That's what they were. So that's why I prematurely aged. So the Midrash says, Hashem says, the Daskin Baletosa cites the Midrash. Hashem says to Yaakov, after I took you out of the jaws of the lion, Lavan, I saved you from Esav. And your sons, when they destroyed Shechem, they were not killed. Dinah was retrieved. And all that I've done for you, you're complaining to this heathen. And you finally, you see your son Yosef, after not seeing him for 22 years. You're complaining to this heathen that your years are few and painful and bitter. Therefore, for every word that you express to Paro, 1 year will be taken off your life. You should have seen it, despite the pain, you should have seen the positive and not expressed in addition. You're saying this to a heathen? So therefore, every word, you lose a year of your life. That's why he had 33 years taken off his life, each word, which, according to Hashem, he had spoken out of turn. That's the famous midrash we're all aware of. So there's a famous question, which is asked by Rav Chaim Shmulevitz, the Mir Rosh Hashiva. He asked, if you count the words, it's less than 33 words.
32.
And you have to, the only way you come to 33 it says that Paro had seen that he looked aged. Aged. Those words, if you include those words in the number, you have 33. Why? So Rav Chaim Shmulevitz explains, when does a person age? If you experience life in the context of pain, deprivation, suffering. But if every moment of life is positive, and you don't take the negative experience as negative, but rather you see the positive in it, it doesn't wear you down, it doesn't cause aging. So that was the claim. Because Paro had seen him aged, he says to him, you shouldn't, why did you get worn down from this? If you would have seen the positive of the result, that would have either rejuvenated you and you would have retained a more youthful appearance. So that you appear to be worn down, it doesn't reflect well on Hashem. Therefore, for those words that the Paro had noticed the way he looked, those words are included in the 33. Therefore, he had 33 years taken from his life. That's what Reb Chaim Shmulevitz says. That's the way he explains it. So the Torah is making a point. He lived 147 years. Let's understand what exactly, if Yaakov would have lived 180 years, what would have that meant? What would have it meant to the Jewish people, to the eternity of the Jewish people? The portion of Vayechi is called Parsha Stuma. The paragraph structure, it's called a sealed portion. Why is it called a sealed portion? So Rashi himself, first Rashi, explains, Lama Parsha Zu Stuma, Lefi Shekeven Shenifte Yaakov Avinu. Because when Yaakov Avinu passed away, Nistemu Eineim V'Liben Shel Yisrael B'Tzaras HaShibud. The eyes and the hearts of the Jewish people became sealed because of the Tzaras HaShibud, the problems, the pain of the bondage. Sheschilu L'Shabdom. They started to enslave them, which has to be explained. But the moment Yaakov passed away, the effects, the environment started to seep in, and that compromised their level of clarity and their spirituality. That's what happened. If Yaakov would have lived another 33 years, that means, although they were in Egypt, as the first 17 years, they were totally unaffected by the environment whatsoever, it would have continued another 33 years. If they would have been not under the influence, to any degree, of the Egyptian culture, its values, would have been a different level. The Jews would have been, Sinai would have been a different Sinai. So because he had those 33 years taken off his life, as a result of that, we are less of a people. But again, it's the hashgacha. That's the way God wanted it. That he should make the mistake and say, Lo yichya. And Rachel Imenu, who was the primary matriarch, she passed away at this young age. Because she had to be buried on the way. So when the Jews go into exile, it's Rachel Mvakal Boner. Rachel Imenu, she goes and she stands before the heavenly court and she cries for her children. And Hashem says, V'shov banu l'gvulam, your children will return to their borders. Or the other interpretation, whatever it is, there's nothing which is coincidence. Hashem allows things to take place because they're important for the future. So that we were denied 33 years of Yaakov's life in Egypt, that was part of God's orchestrating the events, that's the way things were supposed to manifest themselves. That's the way it's supposed to be. We had mentioned that when Shimon and Levi destroyed Shechem, what was the claim against them? The first thing Yaakov said to them, he said, until now my mind was clear. You've made my mind murky because I'm concerned for our survival. We're surrounded by all these nations. What is that? Meaning for Yaakov to be able to prophesize at that special level, he has to have that tranquility, inner peace. If it's disrupted, it's an infringement on that level. That's what Shimon and Levi did. When Yosef was denied to his father for 22 years, Yaakov did not prophesy for 22 years. If Yaakov would have prophesied for 22 years, he would have been at a different level. even in Egypt, the 17 years he spent with us in Egypt, the last years of his life, he himself would have been at a different level. But because he was denied prophecy, because the brothers had sold Yosef into slavery, Yaakov was less of a patriarch. Therefore, his effect and his influence on the eternity of Klal Yisrael was a lesser influence. These were all claims against the Shvatim. So it is explained, the 10 greatest sages who lived in one generation, since the giving of Torah at Sinai, they were the ones who died to atone for the sin of their ancestors. Because just as they denied Yaakov that level of spirituality, taking the 10 martyrs will deny the Klal Yisrael for all eternity that special level of Torah, which will no longer be, for that reason. That's the way I explained it.